Hi everyone, I'm Simon Cooper from the Cooper Strip Club with my son George.
Hey everyone.
And we're stripping a window. So on with the stripper. Once we've got this on, I'll explain some of the fun challenges with this window. Okay, did you get the front edge here, George? Okay, let's give this a couple of minutes to absorb. So, looking at the strippers absorbing into the varnish. So I just want to show a few things over here before we'll just let the product do its job. So first of all, on the guide, so yeah, we're doing part one, which is strip what's on the surface. George, as you can hear, he's hissing a bit over there. He's just puffing a bit more on where it's absorbing in.
Over here it's a bit thicker because it's been protected by a hinge that used to be here.
It was. It's quite interesting that I removed the stay earlier, so that was sitting on there. So for most of its life, that piece through there was not getting the sun on it. So it just shows you a bit of a difference there. Now, so I want to show you over here some of the challenges that we have. So first of all, this is a polyurethaned window. The wood is Remu with cedar. And one of the challenges here is the fact is that this room was decorated not too many years ago. So we have done quite a lot of masking to protect the decorating. And also the house was painted, again, not that long ago outside. And so we don't want to have stripper get outside and damage the windowsills and those sorts of things. So there's a couple of things to be aware of. And this is not that people put off doing the windows because it's a job to do all the other things, and then suddenly realise, oh, I should have done the windows at the start. But never mind, it is what it is. So first of all, what I've done is I've put a masking tape here. I've stuck it on from the back so it comes across, and that this is a stripper proof masking, and so when the stripper gets on here it's not going to get outside. Also down the bottom here I've got a bit of toweling that has been connected there going down over the sill, and so when I shut the window, I'll come around the other side of you, push the cameraman. We've got the toweling with the masking, and there's no absolutes with masking. Masking is always we try to get it as good as possible, and so we're pretty good at not damaging things we don't want to strip. So, and we'll show you more of that later. Now again, I'll just do that just for a moment. Okay, so over here you can see there's a lot of water damage. This has had years of condensation come down onto it, and there's all these watermarks and things, and so we'll show you how to deal with those. The windowsill itself is severely sun damaged, sun bleached, and again you can see like behind this post here, the mullion, that's quite fresh looking varnish, and as soon as it's out of the sun it's all dried and bleached. So there'll be these sorts of things to deal with. Okay. Now, George has requested our attention once more. You can see the colouring changing too, from up here down to where the stripper's absorbing into the surface, bringing out the natural colours. So, where are we up to, George?
It's all ready. It's just turned into absolute goop. And if you watch this, I can snip it off my finger.
And before you take it off, George, the reason I've chosen here is that this jam and architrave is pretty much exactly the same as the doors through this house. The doors are the flat plywood doors with this exact jamb and architrave. So when you see this being done, it's exactly the same as if you were doing the jamb and architraves throughout the hallways and bedrooms and all that sort of thing. So it's a sort of, you're seeing two window and doorways all at the same time. So as we said before, the varnish is not that thick here, but it's still the same. If it was super thick paint, whatever, it's still the same process. It just uses more stripper to get through the paint. Okay, so let's let George do his thing. Now he's using what we call a broad knife. It's basically a putty knife, and he's using a dragging action. So rather than pushing it, he's dragging it. And we're just taking off the bulk. It doesn't have to be super pretty at this point.
Now in this area here where it's actually been hit by the sun, there's not very much varnish on the surface at all. And so most of the stuff will actually be in the grain. This is actually not much purpose to actually taking this off like this. But in some places it has actually got some still.
Some of the projects we do have got lots and lots of finish on top, and other ones it's more worn off through time, but we still got to get it all out of the grain. The window sashes are cedar. If they had made the sashes out of Remu, they would have warped and twisted by now. Cedar is very stable, and so it doesn't warp. And maybe some steel wool, George, on those in the sash bits.
Absolutely.
This is your number 2, is it?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll show you in a minute on the guide, but this is our stage 2, which is the stripping what's out of the grain. And so on goes the strip. And when the very first coat of varnish was put on, what happened was it all soaked into the grain. And this is the one we're getting out now. And so in it goes. Now we have this claim to fame of no sanding, and this is all about reusing the sanding that already exists. I'll talk a bit more about it in a minute. Now George has got a chunk of steel wool in his paws. This is a European steel wool. It's very long stranded, and it's sharp, it doesn't crumble. And so we're going to give this a wet scrub. So he's not scrubbing a dry surface, he's scrubbing the surface that's wet with the stripper. It's more of a massage. You can see all that natural colour just pouring out without having to sand it off a couple of mil of timber to get to it. Now, and in our videos we often get comments about health and safety, all that sort of thing, so I've just put a fan into the window. This is what we normally do. So if you're working down one end of the window, at the other end you have a fan going, and it's sucking air from one end of the house through out the window, and so there should be no reason that you smell anything at the other end of the house or even in the room itself. So you can see this colour pouring out from here. So George has got one of our detail brushes, one of our light copper bristled brushes there. It won't damage the timber. Everything we do is in the direction of the grain. Now, how was that colouring? When the wood is wet, like it is now, it tells you what it will look like with a new finish. And so as we go, we're watching for what we're achieving. But before you get into that, George, I just want to quickly show a bit of health and safety. So did you get the fan for Arthur?
Yep.
So the fan's always pointing out the window. You don't want to suck air from outside and blow it through the house. The idea is to blow it out there. And so it's taking air from the other end of the house through out there. And George has got his gloves on, he's got a barrier cream on, all his other skin. Now if you go to our website, which is coopersstripclub.com, and there's a getting started tutorial there, and it goes into way more detail about the ventilation and health and safety and all those sorts of things. So anyway, we're on to, which part we're up to now, George?
Up to step 3.
3, wow, cool. Now, lookout number 1 and 2 are both coloured in red, and that is to go with the red. Yeah. Now, George's in his hand has got a bottle of blue, and that goes with part 3 there, which is flushing the surface clean. So, spray scrub, spray wipe. A bit more of a challenge for the camera today because we've got the light outside messing around. Now, this is a grit pad, a grit embedded pad, and this is like a nylon pad which has got these grits put into it, and it's really good. So, George is going to give this again a wet scrub. This flusher is a paraffin-based spirit, and it's not neutralising anything. What its job to do is to rinse clean. Now, what the little grits do in the pad is they get into the sanding marks that were put there by the person that made it. So the wood's got thousands of little scratches from the sandpaper, and it's all full of soft varnish from the stripper, and the little grits, sort of like record player needle, get into there. And so at this point we're just using the flusher to rinse out those residues of varnish and of stripper. So you do a spray scrub and then you do a spray wipe. And again, that's on the part 3 of the guide. And if you look at the colour there, it's just extreme how for minimal effort you can see from the stuff that hasn't been touched to what has. Now a lot of the window is going to be just that. And one of the good things of this house is it's got a good eave. I don't know if you can see outside, Arthur. A house with an eave is a good thing because it protects the finishes inside way better. What we're going to find here is because down lower the eaves had less effect, that's where you get more weathering. Now, one part where this grip pad is amazing is on these water stained parts. And you can hear that sort of grind, and that will, George will put a bit of extra time into that, and that gets rid of sort of any of this damaged wood. So in this case he's using the grip pad for more than just a quick rinse, he's doing a bit of repair at the same time. Now if you were stripping a painted sash, it's the same concept exactly. Some finishes, some of the leads just take more time to soften, and the thicker finishes take more time to get through. But if you watch a few of the different videos we're doing, your sort of method we use on a door or that's got thick paint on, you just apply it to this, and it's easy to work it all through. Now once we've done this corner in our, what we call our real-time stripping, we'll then continue doing the rest of the window, and that'll be sped up for your viewing convenience. Oh, good.
Absolutely perfect.
Any questions people have, just email us. Really good if you, when you're on the website, to join our strip club. We email out the different projects we're doing and working on so you don't miss out on things. Any questions, just send us photos of your projects. We can give you the tips and tricks for your project. These detail brushes are amazing in those corners, the miters, that's what they're for. I'm speechless. Can you want that black come out, George, with a bit more grip padding?
Yes, they could.
Yeah, I think we'll do a little bit more there. So we're at this point here, and I just think we can probably, if you could zoom right in there, Arthur, on this here and on there. This has had sort of severe water, sun for many, many years. So what we'll do is we'll just give it another bit of grip pad and flush just on that edge there. So this is now regarded as a repair. You only do this where it's needed, and remember, it's the wet look that counts. Don't be influenced by it when it dries all out. Look at it when it's wet, and if it looks good, then great. If you think it could do with a bit more, and don't look at that grip pad, George, and you can see here. So it's moving now a little bit of wood fibre. We're now not using it as we used it originally. We're now using it to do a repair with. So it's not unusual on a window like this to spend sort of a half hour extra just getting rid of those black mouldy marks, the tannins that have come out. This has probably had a good 50 years of having condensation and sun on it every year with never coat of varnish.
Let's have a look at the rag.
Sure. And if it's on the rag, it's not in the wood. And this, so that would be good. There's teeny weeny bits, but I would put that down to character, and character is a personal thing. But if you start sanding that sort of stuff, it then makes that look so new. You've then got to do it to everything, and you create a monster job that you don't need to do. So the idea of this is getting it to a point that you're really happy with the result, and it makes it so much easier. Now, you probably are thinking, well, what about the bit of varnish behind the edge when the window opens, and because this window is a hinged window, it's not a permanently fixed window. So what we're going to do is show you some cunning tricks. So we get the rag, so we'll just so we've all gone good there, nothing's gone where it's not supposed to. And so we've got a bit of wood there. I don't know if you're focusing right, yep. So you can see there's a part down there, and up the side way less there. So if it's thin varnish like this, then sometimes because the surface tension from here to there is very small now compared to the whole thing, usually a blade can just snip off some of that top stuff. So we'll see how that works. And the blade.
Right there.
Hang on. So I'm going to shout myself a new blade. So this is our 4-edge blade, and it's got these curved edges. If you can focus, that edge is not
The other way.
which way?
There we are.
The edge is not flat, and either of those edges, and it helps us on these parts. So these are one of the few areas.
I'll
So I'll attempt not to fall out. I'm trying to avoid taking the sash off the hinge and taking it onto a bench. Often people are 2 stories up, and it's not quite so it's easy to say take the sash off, but it's not always convenient. Imagine doing this to the whole window. And this is way easier because it's only got that little lip to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get a bit of steel wool on some, and not the rag, but get a bit of steel wool, and so if you can do this now, George. So we'll squirt a bit of stripper into the steel wool, and then we're going to give that surface a scrub. So. The whole idea of this is to not drip stripper.
It's full spread out. There we go.
That's it, that'll join. Should we brush a bit of strip on there? No, I would maybe do it like that. And then we'll get down to it. So the flusher doesn't have the grunt. Yep. You can hear me through the glass, can't you? I want to have another one go down the bottom there. So, I'm going to just do a little bit more there. So when it's wet, that's what we're going to get. So I'm holding here, I think holding this sash here is just giving a bit more purchase on it. Yep, that's good. So with the wet colour, so that's all evened out. And also that's had years of being undercover where that's been in the sun, so that's pretty evened out. This up here is pretty good. So, no two ways about it. This is always the chicken and egg bit. You've got to work out how to get those bits done. One way is unscrew the hinge, but of course you've got to get at the hinges and all that sort of stuff. So this is a good way of doing it where nothing else has been damaged, and so that's a success. So close him up. Now, let's show you some of the things in our stripping pack before we talk about finishes. So, we supply stripping packs. So if you decide you want to use Coopers, we will always point you towards a stripping pack. In every stripping pack you get stripper and you get flusher. For every litre of stripper you get half litre of flusher. It comes with bottles and triggers. It comes with steel wools and our grip pads. It comes with our detail brushes and with our blades. And so you'll see all those on the website. Again, coopersstripclub.com, and that will, you go to the shopping page and it has a whole heap of sizes depending on the project size. Now, let's talk about finishing. So you can finish this here now with anything you like. This is ready for finishing, whether you are painting or polyurethaning or Danish oiling, whatever you want to use. Or you can use our moisturizer. This is our finish. It's moisturizer, and it's a blend of gum, oil, and wax. It's like leather care for wood, and we've been using it. I don't know, we make all these products, and it's
30 years ago.
30 odd years we've been doing this, and it's amazing. It's perfect for this. The thing with this window is it's as dry as a bone. It's just super thirsty. Now when it's all dry like this, it starts to look a bit manky up the side here. After it'd be a good one. You know, it doesn't look quite so flash anymore, and you think, oh, okay, I better get the sander out. But don't. If it looked good when it was wet with flusher, trust in the finish. So we slap this on with the brush. So into it, George. So you don't do this if you're using someone else's finish. You're ready for someone else's finish now, but if you like our finish, then go for it. Don't have to be good. Now with the with the moisturiser, you can do it immediately you finish the stripping. You don't have to wait overnight like you should do with other finishes. Any solvent that's left in the grain is just going to go straight through the moisturiser. Now you would normally have that green tape off by now, but we're going to afterwards continue with the rest of it, so we'll leave it on. This finish is non-toxic, so it's ideal for like breadboards and salad bowls and all those sorts of things. It's used all over the place. It just really brings out the real grain. One of the things too, which is really good, is if you discover down the line that there's something you could have stripped a bit better, you can go back and do a touch-up without any drama.
What's the odour like for the moisturiser?
Oh, none, zero. There's no, the stripper and flusher are very, very low odour, but the moisturiser has no odour. So it's a nice ideal way of not choking the house up with all that sort of thinnery smell.
Sometimes we get asked about people having to move out of the house for a standard varnish.
Yeah. This whole system, there's no reason to have to move out at all. Like with the ventilation system we have, and everything we do, you can be stripping and you can be isolate one room off and work on it, and everything else is fine. So now this is on, and it's going to drink. And already, if you focus in on down here, you might be able to see where it's already drinking up. This whole sill is just, the moisturiser is just disappearing. And right before your eyes. So, what we do in that case, what you do is start like this, you'd come back after about an hour and you would just slap more on where you needed it. You don't have to put more moisturiser on where it doesn't. If you go to the top, right up to the top rail, the architrave, that's got a lot of finish on it, and that probably has got the same amount of finish on as the bottom had originally, but this just didn't have the weathering. So down the bottom is where you can. So it's all logical. It's like this has had all the weathering, so this is where it's going to be thirstier, and this is getting its first decent feed in 50 years. So we're going to slap some more moisturiser on here. Can you grab that, George? You can even see down this end here, it's not as thirsty. So this is still quite thick, but through here, where the sun's hit it more, boom. So just slap it on. Now, most finishes, you've got to leave it a certain amount of hours before you could even think about putting more on. This is just demand feed stuff. You just slap it on, give it what it needs. Now, there's two distinctly different woods here, as I said before. We've got the cedar and we've got the Remu. And so you've got a very two-tone effect. And often people get a bit worried. I personally think it looks great, the two-tone. As long as it's natural, it's not like it's been wood stained. This is the wood doing its own thing. Now, you leave this on for 2 days. But, do you have any wax sticks floating around, George? I'll show you guys something cool. Guys and girls. Yes, now perceived what I'm talking about. You see this bit of putty. Over the years that's faded or done whatever it's done. So you put the moisturiser on and you look around and you go, ugh, don't really like that. So what can we do? We're very dark in that. Right? Running around the outside of you. Like that. So you get whatever you want. This is, I think, an old throwing dart. And we just pick that out. So we generally do this at this point after the moisturiser's gone on, because it really tells you what you have and haven't got. So it's a dry hole, and we pick one of these filler sticks. And Remu's renowned for having the kaleidoscope of colours. It's all over the place, every colour in the rainbow sort of thing. So this is a friction filling system, and we just rub. Friction, this is a good time of the year over here in New Zealand, because everything's soft. And we get our grip pad, give that a quick scrub, and so there's no filler gone around the hole, it's right in the hole. How many times you go to somewhere, a cafe or something, and you see all the joinery has got these big shady marks around the nail hole, it looks foul. So this is really good. If the colour was wrong, because we'll find sort of over here, if I use that same filler colour on there, it'll show up, so you use one of our lighter colours. So these are our wax filler sticks, and the system is called friction filling, so friction to soften the wax. So that's pretty cool.
And how long does the wax last for in the hole?
Forever. Unless your grandkids pick it up. And
You congratulate yourself on using one up.
yeah, it's very rare to actually go through one. Now, let's pretend we've been here a couple of days, and I'll let George get in there again. And the wood has now finally stopped drinking. We've been moisturising a cabinet this week back at the factory, and it took a couple of days before it stopped absorbing. And so this is still absorbing, so what you do after a couple of days is you wipe off any surplus. In this case we're wiping lots off because it's only been on for 2 minutes. And now it gets a dry burnish. So the original cloth George wiped off with, you can use that for dusting. But he's given this now a burnish. Now this moisturiser, it's not water soluble. And what that means is water beads off. So what you're doing is conditioning the wood to repel moisture. So rather than sealing it like with polyurethane and hoping it doesn't break, doesn't crack or anything, what this does is it saturates into the wood, absorbs in. Really good on cracked surfaces. So down on this here, it's not unusual that we go to houses where this sill is full of micron cracks everywhere, and the moisturiser goes into them and it just stops it getting worse. If you put polyurethane on top of a surface that's got cracks in, it's going to crack again pretty fast, and then it's all going to turn pear-shaped. So this goes on, you buff it up, and it's done. And now you live with it and love it and all that. Now, maintenance. Windows are one of the highest maintenance parts of the house, and so there's no such thing as a finish that lasts forever. This is a finish that you maintain, and it's simple maintenance. So you just forget about it and live with it, and then one day you'll look at it and it'll look a little lackluster, and it'll just have lost its glow. And we call it a mellow glow. And so how do you look after it? Really simple. You grab your brush with the moisturiser, you just quickly slap another coat straight over the top. If there's any fly stuff on there, anything at all, not a drama, just get your grip pad, give it a quick once over. That gets rid of anything like that. In a sense, the moisturiser is like a barrier cream for wood, so nothing can stick. So, and you leave that on overnight or a couple of nights, whatever, and then you just again buff the surface dry. And there you go. Now this would look way better if we'd left it the full couple of days, but this gives you the idea and all on there. Now as condensation gets on here, it's going to go down there, it's going to bead up and go away. Occasionally you'll get a watermark, but that's not a problem, because again, all you do when you put your next lot of moisturiser on, boom, grip pad, mark's gone, and what happens is it gets better over time. So you never ever have to strip this again. You just it's just simple maintenance, not having to re-strip it every time. And that, I think, is that. What other things is there? I think we forgot.
I think that was everything.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything more, There's
Ask us online.
the question section,
Yes.
comments.
So, again, coopersstripclub.com, heaps and heaps of stuff. We're always improving it and doing stuff and putting projects. This video will end up there. You may, when you see it, it might be that you saw it on the website. So when we'll do another window, we'll do one with paint on, and you'll see it's sort of a very similar. It's the same method. It's just slight different application each time. So we're going to go have a cup of coffee and come back and rip into the rest of it. So if you're looking for a stripper that really gets it off, Cooper's, the stripper that gets it off every time. Hi everybody, we're back. We've given it a couple of days to absorb. The moisturizer's been drinking away and we've been putting more on as it goes. This is one very, very thirsty window. All those years of being in the sun. The bottom, the sill here is still a little bit absorbent. You can see the moisturizer pretty much keeps on disappearing. And along this top edge here, with the cedar is very, very thirsty. But we'll give that a little bit more later. But what we're going to do now is buff off the surplus. So George is up there going for it. We're just removing the surplus moisturizer and then giving it a bit of a burnish as we go. And that'll give you it gives you what we call a mellow glow, and the wood just comes alive. It's a living finish. So when we've buffed it all up, I'll explain a little more about what we've got. So I'll be able to help out. This old toweling is really good for this sort of rough cloth of an old towel. It's a good way to get new towels. Just to commandeer the old ones. So the moisturiser never dries. It's a living finish. It's perfect for windows. As the new lot of sun keeps hitting it, it doesn't matter. It's going to settle in over a year or two. It's had 50, 60 years of being in the elements.
We get asked from time to time about does it yellow in the sunlight like a varnish?
No. Basically, afterwards I'll talk a little bit about maintenance. But it's a forever finish. If you do the simple maintenance I show you afterwards, the surface just gets better and better. Now, can you do that one there, George? I'll do the sash. So, you can see if you go back to the beginning of the whole video, these colours have just changed quite radically. We've got real cedar grain now. And the good news is we didn't have to sand to get it. If you are doing this and you see something that you didn't strip as good as you could, might be a few weeks later, a month later, whatever, the thing is that because this is not a dry finish, you can go back and do little touch-ups with the stripper, because you're not actually, like if there was a piece I missed there, you would put a little bit more stripper on and get it sorted, and then just put more moisturiser on it and it's all fine. Where if that was polyurethane, there's no way you can do a little spot strip. You'd have to somehow strip the whole component. So there's big advantages with this. This is the reward for all the work. Now, I'll talk a bit about soon the glass. Obviously you don't want smeary moisturiser on the glass. So the more you burnish it, the more you give it this final polish, the more of a glow. There is a place in Christchurch, which is in the South Island. They did all their entranceway and all the timber panelling, and there was a restaurant, and everyone coming in was stroking the wood. So they had t-shirts made saying, "I stroked the wood at Ironside." It's called Ironside House, this restaurant. And I always thought it was quite funny. So this is all quite quick, this part. And so it doesn't matter when you put the moisturiser on if there was dust or anything like that. Like when we stripped this and put the moisturiser on, it was a very humid, muggy, rainy day. But that doesn't matter. Finishes usually require certain atmospheric conditions, not too cold, not too hot, not too humid. This doesn't care. So I'm just going to now deal a bit with this glass. So the flusher will just dissolve off any loose moisturiser. Obviously the less moisturiser you put on the glass, the less you're going to take off. So don't use a stripper to get the moisturiser off, otherwise you'll strip all the moisturiser out of the wood as well. I think these windows need a bit of a clean on the outside as well. So that one's good. Remember, the flush is all about rinsing. Now you can't over moisturise the wood. If you've left it on for 2 weeks or put lots and lots on, because all you're going to do is remove the surplus anyway, and so it's no big deal. Now, while George continues on that part, I want to talk about maintenance. So let's pretend that I've done all the glass and everything's done. This is all done and dusted. You can see how nice the timber is, what sort of glow it's got. I mean, it just feels like silk to the touch. There's no brush marks, there's no grit that's dried onto it or anything like that. The finish is alive. Moisture that comes down, any condensation that hits the wood is just going to it repels off and just drips off. This is still a bit thirsty, this last, so this is going to get some more moisturiser anyway. If it's starved of moisturiser like it is a little bit at the moment, it can get a watermark. To get rid of the watermark, I'll just find myself a grit pad. So, in the future, you might be looking at it and there might be, say, a watermark there. So it's not what you want, but it's no drama, because all you do is you just slap a bit more moisturiser on that area. You don't have to do the whole thing, just that component, and give it a little bit of time, nothing much. Get yourself your grip pad, and if there was a watermark there, it would just be simply that, and it's gone. It's not a drama. Now, what will happen over time is the wood becomes more and more resilient, and so it's something that watermarked last year, and if you do this to it, then it just won't continue happening, and the wood gets better and better as I said, it's like a living finish. So that there we would, because that's a little dry still, we would really douse that up and give it a few more days, and then and buff that off. So, and as I say, this has had all the weather on it. Now, for normal maintenance, every few years, it's not an absolute time. It depends where it is in the house. If you've got most of the day sun, if your house is made for the sun more than others, you can expect that where there's more sun, there'll be more absorbing. And so let's say this was the part here. you've decided that this bottom area needs a bit of a feed, you may decide that the top is fine. It's still looking all right. So what we do is where it looks like it needs it, you just slap on some more moisturizer and you just put more on. If you think the whole thing could do with a feed, then give it a feed to the whole piece. If it's just components, then just do the components. Leave that overnight, and then the next day, once it's had a good chance to absorb in, and again, you can leave it all for a few days, it's up to you. It doesn't matter. Then you just simply buff off what's there, and it's fine. If you found some flies have been depositing their stuff all along here, you put the moisturizer on, and then again, just give it a quick scrub, and it's all gone. So it's a very, very simple finish to look after. With your polyurethanes and things, because you put it on and then you wait for it to be dead, and then you've got to strip it all off again. With this, we've got displays that are over 30 years old that are still as good as well, actually better than the day we did them, because each time we put more moisturizer on, the actual finishes get better. So anyway, that's the maintenance of it. And I'll continue helping George on the buffing. Now, one of the questions is always get is how much product do you need? We've done this window, so now we have a pretty good idea. So I'll just finish this window and I'll go through that properly. It's a good way of getting out of buffing the windows. George doesn't mind.
I don't.
Okay, so products, you've got your stripper, you've got your flusher. So we supply the product in stripping packs, and stripping packs are a combination of a bunch of things, and get them out to show you. Okay, all our stripping packs have stripper, flusher, they have the steel wool, they have the grip pads, they have the detail brushes, the copper detail brushes, and they have our little 4-edge blades, and there's taps to help with the decanting. Now, for every litre of stripper we supply half a litre of flusher. So it's a sort of a 2 to 1. So if you are getting 20 of strip, you'd be getting 10 of flush. So we have many stripping packs. And you go online, go onto coopersstripclub.com, go to the shop page, and you'll see all the different packs we have. We use a term called pack litres. So let's look at this window here. This window used around about 1.5 pack litres. To do. So that's 1.5 litres of stripper, about 3/4 litre of flusher, and all the other bits to go with it. And so what you do is if you buy the product for a window at a time, you'll pay a lot more money than if you're buying enough to do the project. We recommend you purchase for the project because you'll save money, and I suppose that's a good thing. So anyway, we'll continue on with that. And with the moisturiser, you use probably about, and this one is very thirsty, so you probably use the same amount of moisturiser as flusher. moisturiser never goes off, so if you have a bit left at the end, it doesn't matter because you'll use it for future maintenance. I'll hold that for you, George.
Cheers.
One of the things, Arthur, what have we forgotten?
We did cover the yellowing thing, eh?
Yep.
Doesn't yellow.
No. If you don't maintain it, you'll get marks over time, but those marks can be easily removed. We had a client who did his house up and then he had to go overseas for 10 years. When he came back, there were no maintenance had been done that it's supposed to be, and basically it was a two-storied house. It took him 1 weekend to get everything back to like it was brand new, fully restored again. So it was even though he was disappointed that no maintenance had been getting done, it didn't mean that he had to restrip anything. It was just simple maintenance, feeding everything up, and it was all back to normal again. And as I said, if you don't want to use moisturiser at the end of the stripping flushing process, you can use whatever you like on it. With a window, however, we highly recommend this because the sun isn't going to break it down. So, outside is it? Hang on.
Strip us fast.
See if we can push through the glass. Okay, so we'll call that. You'll probably see a couple of smears that we'll fix later. So down there. Okay, George. That. Okay. So we'll be putting the curtains back up and putting the latches back on and that sort of thing. But we're pretty much done. So, again, if I was doing this window, I'd probably prefer to do it all by myself, so I'm not walking over top of me and George all the time. So if you've got a couple of years doing it, it's good to have a window of your own each. But it is what it is. You can share it, up to you. So yeah, so enjoy. Hope you liked the video. We'll find more windows with different finishes to show you over time. Any questions, just send them in. We want to see all different projects. If we haven't got a video for something, we'll make one. So anyway, cheers, enjoy. See you next time.